is the beginning of the week, of fresh, brand new week. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Murph's Boston Sports Talk. I am your host, of course, James Murphy, aka Murph, and thank you for joining me so much for this episode. I am very excited. We have a lot to get into, but first, we got to get the pleasantries out of the way. Hopefully, you were able to have a wonderful weekend. We did have a little bit of rain, a little bit of precipitation, but it was relatively nice out. I mean, it wasn't really freezing cold in some areas at least. So hopefully, with that, warm weather is on the horizon as we've had a few or a couple nice days in the past that are behind us, and we are looking ahead towards spring as we turn the page over to March 1st. Well, with that being said, hopefully you had a wonderful, fun, safe weekend. But like I said, we do have a ton to get into. So I just kind of want to jump right into it. But first, I do have to reiterate the giveaway that I am having for this podcast. And this podcast is giving away an Amazon gift card. It's very simple to join. All you have to do is either reach out to me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, however you can get a hold of me. It's literally it. You don't have to do anything else. If you tweet at me, if you DM me, if you comment on a picture on Instagram, whatever, that's how you do it. And you can find me at Murphs_BostonST, where the ST stands for Sports Talk, as always. And that is where you can reach out to me to enter yourself into the giveaway. That's literally all you have to do. But I guess you kind of have to listen to the podcast in order to find out. Once we reach 1,000 downloads, then I will be doing the giveaway with the wheel where the wheel decide. For all the participants that are involved, I will give it 1,000 spins. It's going to spin, 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 spin. And whoever it lands on is going to receive the Amazon gift card. So more entries means a better gift card. But as of now, it is going to be an Amazon gift card. The amount is just questionable based off of the participants. But with that being said, let's just jump right into quick hits. So Kevin Durant has been dealing with an injury the past couple weeks or so, and even though he is a captain in the All-Star game, he will not be playing in said All-Star game, and that is where Jason Tatum will get promoted in the starting role for Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant will still be the captain, and he will still pick the roster for his team. However, like I said, he won't be playing, where Jason Tatum will be stepping up, and in order to fill Kevin Durant's role on the team, Domantas Sabonis is filling in for him on the All-Star roster. So both players well-deserving, and Sabonis getting the All-Star nod and Jason Tatum getting the All-Star starting nod. I know I said I wasn't going to mention anything Celtics, but I do want to mention that because I think that is a big moment for Jason Tatum, and that is all I'm going to talk about with the Celtics. Moving on to the Boston Bruins, they lost 6-2 to the New York Rangers on Friday. It was very ugly, especially after I said that they were going to be okay on Friday's episode. Come later that night, the game, they get absolutely smoked. However, on Sunday, they did come back and they did win 4-1 against the same New York Rangers. Charlie Coyle netted 2 goals, and it was a good response to a little bit of a recent struggle patch. Very promising, very nice to see that the Bruins were able to rebound from a recent struggle. Hopefully, this can kind of vault them into more success down the road as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline for the NHL. Now, in other Bruins news, they did sign defenseman Jared Tinordi. Yes, Tinordi. And I did play 1 year of hockey, but I am no stud in terms of, extra statistics or advanced analytics when it comes to hockey. I mean, I think advanced analytics are kind of stupid. But in the 2021 NHL season this year, Tinordi has played in 7 games. He has 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points. And his plus-minus is -1. Like I said, I'm no advanced analytic major, no advanced analytic guy. I just look at the stats, I watch the game with my eyes, and I kind of make my opinions that way. But I do know that a player with no points is relatively not good. And you could say, like, oh, they do more locker room guy, mentor, motivator, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, fair. But I think a plus-minus of -1 in 7 games, I mean, I guess you could say he's not losing any games, but he's also not winning any games. And I guess whatever. I mean, he's a left shot defenseman, which is something that the Bruins kind of need right now with Grzelcyk and Miller both out. So I guess from the Bruins' perspective that this is just straightly a depth move, which is totally fine if that is the case. I really don't see this guy coming in and making a huge impact revolving around the team. sticking with the Bruins with the trade deadline coming up, there are some moves that need to be made clearly for this team, whether it is extra defensive help or whether it is getting top six forward help. And I'm a big proponent of both. I've been saying this pretty much the start of the season. Ever since I started this podcast, I've been saying that the Bruins need to get some help, the top six for the forwards, and just straight up defensive help. And I think they should really focus on getting elite talent at the top six forward position, because the Bruins are a very good team as it is right now. Though they're injured, though they have a young defensive core, they're still very, very good. But what is going to put them over the top? Getting a middle of the line forward, kind of like they have in the past. Yes, it's nice. It'll get you to the playoffs, give you a deep run, but it's not going to win you the cup. Getting an extra defenseman, okay, but when everyone's healthy, where are they going to play? Because your defensive core, or your six guys that play night in, night out when healthy, is a very good, young, strong core. So that's why I kind of propose that the Bruins, I almost said Celtics, that the Bruins go out and get elite talent. Like, I've heard rumors around the street, Jack Eichel, Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane, big A-list tier 1 names. All three of those teams are underperforming this year. Bruins need elite talent, and those three players are elite talent who will put you over the top. It's easier said than done, trust me, but I think this is something that the Bruins should really strongly consider. Now, you could also ask, hey, what are they going to give up? Well, that's an excellent question. Besides draft picks, they don't really have a lot of good, top-tier prospects to move, so it does kind of put them in a pickle, in a sticky situation. It's just something that's going to have to play itself out. How desperate do these teams want to move these players, if they want to move them at all? I feel like in order to get one of these three guys, you're going to have to put a massive package on the table where it's going to have to really blow the other team away. But we'll just have to wait and see as the trade deadline gets closer and closer. If oh my goodness, I almost said the Patriots. If the Bruins can make a move, to bring in, it doesn't have to be one of those three guys, but top six level talent for their forwards, I really think that could really put them over the top. Because, the Lightning are still there. They're still a really good team. I mean, you're struggling with the Rangers, clearly. And just with everything kind of mixed up this year in terms of the divisions, it's kind of little spicy. And you just kind of want to you don't want to get into the playoffs and just ride the wave and then lose semifinals or the conference finals. You want to win the cup. You're doing really well this year. You have the players. They're only getting older. Marchand, Bergeron, Krejci, they're only getting older. So Tuukka Rask, even this is his last year of his contract. So to really capitalize on a year where everything's kind of, mixed up and out of order, plus you've been really good this year, there's no need to take advantage of it and go out, take a chance, bring in top level talent. So that's my Bruins take of the day. I do have some other topics I want to get into, but beforehand, I got a little bit of a little surprise for the show. So obviously you all know that I really love to have fun. I love to hang loose. I just love to ride it out and kind of take where this podcast goes with each and every day, obviously because it's unscripted and it's unbiased. I must say I do have some notes so I can refer to some talking points, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, I want to bring this podcast and the show more to life, and I think the best way to do that is through sound effects. Yes, and Murph, how are you going to have sound effects on when you're recording? I can download, sound effects from like YouTube or whatever and then put them in, but that's all in the background. But I could do it in the moment. So let's say, breaking news drops, right? And for example, I turned on to Twitter before I started recording and I see this wonderful tweet from Field Yates, and it says, JJ Watt has updated his Peloton bio and it now reads Super Bowl 56, ... GB, ... CLE, ... BUF. Now, to me, obviously, if anyone is anybody, they read that and say Super Bowl 56, Green Bay, Packers, Cleveland Browns, or Buffalo Bills, kind of hinting that JJ Watt is probably considering one of those three teams. or he really wants to go to one of those three teams. So my perspective and your perspective, that's kind of breaking news right now, because as it stands, probably every team is on the market right now to sign J.J. Watt except the Texans. However, to him kind of say that, Super Bowl 56, Green Bay, Cleveland, Buffalo, I think is a little bit of a breaking news, and that calls for yes. So I have a ton of these sound effects that I'm going to play throughout the course of, the episodes moving forward. I'll play a few of them now for you. We have an applause. If I have a bad take, or if I see something, like a bad take online, I'm going to boo them. Let's see. If there are major breaking news, got to have the horn sound off. And then obviously on Wednesdays, I love to introduce the episode as Hump Day. Yeah. So I'm going to have a tremendous amount of fun with this. And, if you hear some random noises in the background, just know that it's just my sound effects. So yes, this podcast has definitely got a lot more fun and is going to be a lot more energetic, I guess. So I got a ton of these things, and I'm super fun to use them. But I know I kind of use the whole J.J. Watt Peloton thing as an example, but that is something worth noting, because the Patriots were kind of in the mix for a little bit. But if he doesn't want to go to the Patriots, and clearly you don't see NE on his Peloton bio, so the Patriots continue to miss out, swing and miss on top tier free agents. All right, so moving over to the Red Sox. They played their first spring training game yesterday. It was a loss to the Minnesota Twins, 7-6 in 7 innings. They are back on the field today against the Blue Jays. But I do kind of want to mention a quote that Chris Sale said, I believe, a couple days ago. However, I'm just getting around to it, obviously. And in an interview for WEEI, Chris Sale was asked about retiring in Boston and the possibility of such. And this is Chris Sale's exact quote. Quote, 100%, I have nowhere else to go. I have nowhere else to be. This place is top notch. They're unbelievable, and I love it here. I feel comfortable here. They take care of me, and we win. That is an A1 quote from Chris Sale, and it's a beautiful thing because Red Sox need him. It's just straight up. The Red Sox are successful when they have a top-of-the-line ace on their staff. You can look at Pedro. You could look at Beckett. You could look at Lester. And now more recently, Chris Sale. So to see him feeling as confident as ever to stay in Boston or want to stay in Boston is really reassuring, because obviously he has an opt-out after the end of next year where he could just opt out and move along to the next team if he wanted to. But to want him to stay here is very nice, is very comforting, because, the pitching rotation has been a question mark all off season, something I have ranted and raved about. So I'm very excited to see that Chris Sale wants to stay here long term past 2021 and hopefully past his contract. On a side note, we've seen players have some issues with Boston, such as David Price, who kind of wanted to shoot himself out, which I don't think he did, because after winning the 2018 World Series, Boston fans kind of liked him, and, he started to like them as well. But before that, there was a lot of issues with, the Boston media, Boston fan base, and David Price for a numerous of reasons. And, eventually David Price was traded, but I think everyone was kind of, I don't want to say questionable about said trade, but kind of iffy about it, because, he was amazing in 2018, that postseason run. He was awesome for the Sox, and whether it was starting or relief, he did what he had to do. And, Boston fans loved him for that, and he loved doing it. So, but before that, like I said, he did kind of want to leave, at least it seemed like so. But on the other hand, to see Chris Sale say that, no, I don't want to leave at all. This is where I want to be. Top notch. We want to win. We win. Is nice to hear. So, round of applause. Round of applause. Chris Sale, A1 quote, makes me feel good inside. Moving on to another quote from another Red Sox pitcher, Matt Barnes. Now, Matty Backpacks has had up and down seasons for the Sox. He's been really, really good, like a top 10 pitcher at times, and then he's been a bottom of the barrel, bottom 10 pitcher at times. But overall speaking, he's a very good pitcher. But this quote that he said is very questionable in my opinion. Now, obviously, he's talking about a former teammate, and he probably has a platonic connection and a relationship with this player that obviously I will never have, you or me will never have, but it's still something to talk about and consider when you're looking at the bigger picture of things. So Matt Barnes said, quote, "I think the fact that Jackie Bradley Jr. doesn't have a job right now is absolutely mind-boggling." And I think to myself, well, how so? How so? And before I go to stats, because I do love my stats, I want to purely talk about Red Sox personnel. And I know that the Red Sox, signed Kike Hernandez and Marwin Gonzalez, who both can play the outfield as well. They're huge utility men and probably will get a lot of playing time out in the outfield. However, they are technically classified as infielders. So I'm going to kind of put them aside for now and just kind of focus on quote-unquote outfielders that the Red Sox have. And on another end, I'm going to also consider Andrew Benintendi into the situation because Andrew Benintendi was just traded a couple of weeks ago, and throughout the majority of the offseason, clearly he was on the roster. Was there a potential trade in the works for a lot of the offseason? Did the Red Sox want to trade him throughout most of the offseason? Things we'll never know, but in my argument, I'm also going to consider that Andrew Benintendi is on this roster just for argument's sake. So looking at the Red Sox outfielders going into the 2021 season, like I said, you would have Andrew Benintendi, and if you want to replace him with Franchy Cordero, go ahead. JD Martinez, Hunter Renfroe, Jessen Rosario, Alex Verdugo, and Marcus Wilson. Those are 6 outfielders. And then if you want to throw in Kike Hernandez and Marwin Gonzalez, that is 8 outfielders on your 40-man roster. Now you also have Jarren Duran, who is, up-and-coming prospect. He's going to get a lot of looks in spring training, who might find his way onto the roster to come start the season. Who knows? So if you want to throw him in there, go ahead. There's 9. Now, Jackie Bradley Jr., from my recollection, was making around $10 million last year. And there was a big, a lot of speculation surrounding the team that the Red Sox were going to trade him to shave off $10 million and not have to worry about him come free agency and all that good stuff. Red Sox ultimately decided to keep him, ride out the season, and I would assume that there has been no talks or speculations revolving the Red Sox and JBJ in terms of a reunion. Now, I would like to point and say that, the Red Sox have 9 potential outfielders on their team, so there's really not a lot of room for Jackie Bradley Jr. And let's excuse Kike and Marwin Gonzalez, so you have 7. You have Benintendi / Cordero, JD Martinez, who's usually the DH, but he'll find his way in the outfield from time to time. Hunter Renfroe, who you just signed, Rosario and Wilson, who are up-and-coming prospects, and then Alex Verdugo, who's going to be your everyday outfielder as well. Plus, you have Jarren Duran, who could potentially make the roster come out of spring training. So is there any room in the outfield for Jackie Bradley Jr., I ask? I mean, if you want someone who is going to give you a lot of good defense and a staple in your lineup who doesn't miss a lot of time, sure, yeah. But looking at it from the Red Sox perspective, which is, financially and long-term, no, there isn't. Rosario is 22 years old. Wilson is 24 years old. Obviously, Verdugo is the big ticket from the Mookie Betts trade, so he's going to be starting either way. Cordero is the big ticket from the Andrew Benintendi trade, so he'll probably be starting once he gets healthy. Like I said, for argument's sake, there was Benintendi in the situation, so he was going to be in left field. And I keep saying I'm going to, kind of slide them, but you have to take this into consideration that Gonzalez and Hernandez can both play the outfield. And then, like I said, Jarren Duran, he probably start the season in AAA, but the option and the potential is there for him to win an outfield spot on this team because Jackie Bradley Jr. is not there. And Jarren Duran is younger. He can hit better, clearly, JBJ, but also Duran is part of the long term in the future, just like Rosario, Wilson, Verdugo, Cordero. of the like. Now, Hunter Renfroe, he was a free agent signing, so you would probably assume that he'd be the fourth, fifth outfielder on the team, filling in here and there. Might become the starting outfielder, left field, center field this season. Who knows? Now, with all the personnel chatter and all the good stuff out of the way, I do kind of want to point to stats because, like I do say, I love my stats. JBJ is a phenomenal outfielder. He was a top 2, top 3, top 5 center fielder for pretty much the majority of his career, if not all of his career, when he broke into the league. I mean, he broke in 2013, but he really started to start in 2014, So let's just call it 2014 is when he kind of really made a name for himself. And ever since then, he was always in discussion for the Gold Glove. He won it in 2018. He has an incredible arm. He goes up, makes insane catches, robbing home runs, crashing into the wall, diving, sliding, you name it. He will attempt it, and he will make it. So in this argument and discussion, I'm going to have no negative to say about his defensive skills, defensive abilities, except that a lot of people were saying he was declining come the 2020 season. But I'm going to kind of put that aside because I'm not going to... 2020 is no one's really fault, but it is what it is. I mean, he is 30 years old now, going into his age 31 season, so he is on the wrong side of 30. He's probably going to lose a step or two. So those are things to consider, but I do really want to focus on the batting because every conversation, every debate, every discussion I have with Jackie Bradley Jr., or about Jackie Bradley Jr., I should say, is he can't hit the ball. And that is true. The dude just cannot hit a baseball. Now you could say, oh, well, Murph, during the 2018 postseason, he hit the huge home run against the Astros and won AL CS MVP. He hit 26 home runs in 2016 and was an all-star. He had 7 home runs in 2020 in this COVID-shortened season. Whoop-de-freaking do. Okay, yeah, you know what? When Jackie Bradley hits the ball, he can hit it out sometimes. I mean, he had 21 home runs in 19. He had 26 and 16. And that's it. I'm going to go over his home run total just to kind of clarify the air. 2013, 3, 14, 1, 15, 10, 16, 26, 17, 17, 18, 13, 19, 21, 27. Career total of 98 home runs, okay? He's not that impressive at hitting home runs, guys. Calm TF down. He is not that impressive when it comes to hitting home runs. And when you really want to take into consideration, he hits the ball when he connects. Well, let's see how often he really does connect. This man has a career slugging percentage. Let's go with slugging percentage first. 0.412. 0.412 slugging percentage. Now, if you want to go on base plus slugging, there's 0.732. Now let's work my way backwards. On base percentage, 0.321. That's an excellent batting average right there. I mean, I'll take that any day of the week and argue that he should be back on the team. But let's look at his career batting average. Any guesses? I'm going to give you a few seconds to accumulate a couple guesses first. 250, 270, 290, 300's kind of like, that line, that barrier, 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, 300 wins, 300 average, right? It's like that milestone, that mark. Well, hopefully you got your guesses in. Jackie Bradley Jr.'s career batting average is .239. Yeah, 0.239. He can't hit the ball. He can't. He straight up cannot hit the ball. Now, your argument is when he hits the ball, he hits it out. Okay, so what is he doing when he doesn't hit the ball? He is either striking out or he's just straight up sucking. And I don't expect him to have a 300 batting average, but you can't throw it in my face saying that Jackie Bradley Jr., when he hits the ball, he hits a home run. Okay, that may be true, but when he doesn't hit the ball, when he doesn't hit a home run, what is he doing? Grounding out, flying out, striking out. Boom, boom, boom. He doesn't get many walks. His on-base percentage is not really that good. I mean, in comparison to his batting average, I guess you'll take almost 100 points higher, I guess. But I mean, come on. And yes, you could say like, oh, we'll take the offensive deficiencies for the defensive superiority. Okay, fine. Maybe. But it comes to a time when you're watching the Red Sox and runner on first and third, second and third, bases loaded, 2 outs, and Jackie Bradley Jr. comes up. Now, I don't know about you, but every time I kind of call the inning over. I have no faith and no confidence in Jackie Bradley Jr. Now, on the rare occasion, he'll prove me wrong. But on the rare occasion, a lot of players will prove you wrong. On the rare occasion, a lot of players will either get a hit or, force a walk, get the ball in the gap, shoot it down the line, whatever. And Jackie Bradley Jr. is one of those players. Now, last year, COVID-shortened season, he hit .283, which is the highest batting average he's had in his whole career. Even the year he was an All-Star. I'm pretty sure, I forget what the actual number was, but when he was selected to be an All-Star, I believe he was hitting around 300. I really believe so. In 2016, he was around 300 at the All-Star break. He finished that season .267. That's awful. That's really freaking awful. Now let's look at strikeouts. In 2016, 143, 17, 124, 2018, 137, 2019, 155. So it's not Aaron Judge or, Gary Sanchez kind of strikeout numbers, but come on. You really think that Jackie Bradley Jr. is worth having on your team for $10 million or roughly around $10 million when you traded Mookie Betts and Andrew Benintendi in order to save money against the salary. You can even throw David Price in there as well. When you have 9 potential starting outfielders for you come this season, where 3 of them are very young. I guess if you want to include Verdugo, 4 of them are very young, but he was going to play regardless. It's just not worth it. He's on the wrong side of 30. He can't hit the ball. He can't get on base. The dude is a center fielder. He's very quick. His reaction to the ball is tremendous, but he can't steal. He doesn't steal bases. He doesn't really drive the ball. And when he does, yes, it goes out. But come on, are we really going to hope that he connects on a ball just to hit it out and call it whoop-de-freaking-do? No. No. He has a low ceiling at this point in his career. And honestly, I'd rather see Jarren Duran, who hasn't proven anything on the major league level, play 150 games in center field and just throw him out there than have another season of Jackie Bradley Jr. Because if Bradley Jr. was to be on the team, Duran would have no or little playing time. Now, Matt Barnes, and with his quote, I'm assuming is saying just a team in general. And you could argue that, a team in general. I pulled up here a list of all 30 Major League Baseball teams with their projected center fielders for the course of that season. I don't really care about the projected stats. I'm just going to go with the names of the quote-unquote starters for the 2021 season that is projected for each team. So I'm not looking at projected stats. I'm just looking at the quote-unquote projected starter. Like number 1, the Angels. Obviously, their projected starter in center field is Mike Trout. Okay, so now I'm going to play the game. Do you want Jackie Bradley Jr. over this center fielder? I'm going to go through every major league team and say, would you take Jackie Bradley Jr. over Mike Trout? And you're going to say no. Would you take JBJ over Cody Bellinger? No. George Springer of the Blue Jays? No. Byron Buxton over the Twins? Similar player, but Byron Buxton at least hits the ball and he at least steals bases. So no. Padres, Trent Grisham? No. White Sox, Luis Robert? No. Athletics, Ramon Laureano? No. Yankees, Aaron Hicks? No. Alex Verdugo for the Red Sox? No. Kevin Kiermaier for the Rays? Similar players. Very arguably. Could you take JBJ over Kevin Kiermaier? I'll give you that one. That could be a debate. But, I don't know. Brandon Nimmo for the Mets? No. Ketel Marte for the Diamondbacks? No. Harrison Bader for the Cardinals? I'm going to say no because Bader can run and he's super fast and he could probably steal 40 bases if he was to get on enough. So I'm going to go with that caveat. Ian Happ of the Cubs. Maybe, probably not. Lorenzo Cain for the Brewers. No, but there was rumors that the Brewers were interested in JBJ probably as a platoon outfielder. So for the meantime, let's just go with no, because Lorenzo Cain at least can still hit the ball and he's really good in center field. Starling Marte for the Marlins, no. Austin Hayes for the Orioles. I like what I see from Hayes. I think the Orioles are young, they're good. So I'm not going to kind of mess that up with having a veteran in there who can't hit. The Mariners, Kyle Lewis, obviously not. Victor Robles for the Nationals, no. Miles Straw for the Astros. Obviously, a young guy going to replace George Springer. I think the Astros kind of want to go with the youth there instead of aging Jackie Bradley Jr., but, that's their decision. Obviously, Nick Senzel for the Reds, no. Mauricio Dubon for the Giants, no. Tigers, Jacoby Jones. Dude can't hit either, but he's young. He has a lot of potential. So for now, I'm going to say no. But JBJ would be a nice platoon outfielder for that massive center field, right field gap over there in Detroit. So maybe if Jacoby Jones doesn't really pan out, they could kind of sign JBJ, but that's a conversation for another day. Michael A. Taylor for the Royals, or you could probably have Bradley Jr. play there and have a better performance. Whit Merrifield also plays center field for the Royals from time to time, and you're not going to replace Merrifield. But Michael A. Taylor, that is definitely one that you would probably consider replacing with Jackie Bradley Jr. But Taylor is younger. So, okay, the Braves. You have Christian Pache, Ender Inciarte, and Ronald Acuna Jr. I think Acuna Jr. will be playing more right field this year, so I'll cross him off. Pache is younger, and Inciarte is obviously more veteran, but he can hit the ball a little bit better. I'm not putting Bradley Jr. over any of them. Cleveland Indians, Oscar Mercado, Billy Hamilton. Dude, I love Billy Hamilton, dude. He is so fast. He's so fun to watch, and he's so cheeky on the bases. Something Jackie Bradley Jr. is not. Overall, you could argue JBJ in Cleveland, but what does Jackie Bradley Jr. really bring to the table for a team that's trying to go with a younger center fielder? Not that Billy Hamilton's younger, but Oscar Mercado is. Pirates, Anthony Alford, young guy, probably could have JBJ over, but the Pirates are rebuilding. They're not going to want an aging Jackie Bradley Jr. who doesn't hit the ball. Rangers, Leody Tavares, maybe. Philly, Scott Kingery, no. And the Rockies, Sam Hilliard, no. So those are all 30 MLB teams and their center fielders and who you would take Jackie Bradley Jr. over, or who would you have JBJ over. And probably at the end of it, you'd probably have maybe 4. Let's be honest. Maybe 4 teams would rather have Jackie Bradley Jr. over their current outfielder in center field. But all the guys that you could argue JBJ would be better over are younger and have more potential than JBJ does, or they at least can steal the bases. So, that's just where I stand with it. Those are my thoughts about it. I could be wrong. Jackie Bradley could sign with the team out of, midway through spring training, right out of it when injuries come around. And he could play. Like you guys argue all the time. Oh, when he hits the ball, he hits it out. Okay, but, when he doesn't hit it out, his average kind of blows. And a lot of rebuilding teams don't want that. A lot of young teams don't want that. So that was my much-needed Jackie Bradley Jr. rant. I've been feeling like this for a couple years, even during the 2018 season when they won the World Series. Probably I've been feeling like this since 2017 about the dude. He's, like I always will say, phenomenal defender, excellent defensive center fielder, but the dude can't hit. And in a day and age where hitting is so prevalent, you need hitters in that lineup. So with that being said, finally had my Jackie Bradley Jr. rant. Hopefully I don't have to go on one ever again, at least with him on the Red Sox. If he's not on the Red Sox, you won't have to hear me speak of it ever again. But I do want to talk about one more topic before we wrap things up for Monday's episode. And that is a little bit of a rumor coming out of Foxborough. What could be brewing in Belichick's office? I have an idea. Now, This is not my idea. I've heard of this, and I think this is something to strongly consider. Patriots need a quarterback, correct? I think we can all agree on that. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be drafting Trevor Lawrence with the first overall pick, right? Who's going to be taking a back seat as the Jaguars quarterback? Gardner Minshew. Gardner freaking Minshew. So he's proven himself to be a capable starting quarterback in the NFL. He has. Now, he's been on a crappy-ass Jaguars team, so it's hard for him to play very good when you're not really throwing it to anybody. But you give Minshew a couple of offensive weapons, third down back, maybe a tight end, and a wide receiver, and I think you could have a really good quarterback with Gardner Minshew. But he sucks. Not really. Not really. Let's look at his career stats. So he played 14 games in 2019, and he played 8 games in 2020. And he got sat, and he got benched, whatever, for the Tankapalooza, obviously. So in his 23 career games as an NFL quarterback, he has 5,530 passing yards, a 63 completion percentage, 37 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to do the math off my head, but that's a little bit more than like a 3, ratio. 3 touchdowns to an interception. I'll take that any day of the week. And that is on the Jaguars with no competition. If you put Gardner Minshew in the Patriots offense, you bring back James White, you may bring in a compatible tight end, Julian Edelman out there, you bring in a wide receiver, N'Keal Harry maybe takes the next step, and a solid O-line, and you have yourself Danger Minshew. Yes, you will have a dangerous Gardner Minshew on that team because he can scramble, he can run, and he can pass. He's going to be a low, he's going to have a low price. He is. I mean, there's quarterbacks out there in the free agent market that you're going to have to pay 20, 25, even 30 million for. Dak Prescott's going to probably want 35. Jimmy G's probably going to want 25 to 30. Ryan Fitzpatrick is, been in conversation, probably going to want 10 to 15, which isn't terrible right there. Tyrod Taylor, you could probably get for around the same 10 to 15, which I would also like to see as the Patriots quarterback. But if you were to go out and trade for somebody, like a Jimmy G, say he doesn't get released, or if you were to trade for a Carson Wentz, and trade for Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, whoever you want to kind of throw in there, you have to give up a lot. You have to give up a lot because they don't necessarily need to make that move because they already have the quarterback. They just want to make the move for A, the future, and B, to get a ton of draft assets right now. But with the Jaguars already locked and loaded to take Trevor Lawrence, Gardner Minshew is kind of, flexible at this point for the team. Now, you could obviously have him be as a very good backup, which was kind of the intended thought when the Jaguars drafted him, but he's kind of proven himself a little bit. He has. He's on a rookie deal, which is less than $1 million. So you have him for 2 more years at $850,000. Plus, what are the Jaguars going to really want in return? Because they're not giving up their star quarterback because they're already getting their star quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, obviously. That is why the Patriots need to pounce on Gardner Minshew right now. Right now. They need to pounce on Gardner Minshew. Because you trade for him, you trade low. Probably like a 4th round pick would probably do it, right? 4th, maybe 5th. And they're not going to ask a lot because they don't value Gardner Minshew like that, or they wouldn't be drafting Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars have already said no, they're not trading the number 1 overall pick. They're taking Trevor Lawrence, their franchise guy. If they felt any future, any hope with Gardner Minshew, they would either trade out of number 1 or they wouldn't take Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor Lawrence is going to be the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gardner Minshew is going to be riding the bench. And the Patriots need a quarterback. Might as well bring in Gardner Minshew. And if you decide to go a different direction, at least you have Minshew on the bench to back you up. Because Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer clearly aren't doing it. I think this is a win-win. I really freaking do. Low price. You won't have to give up a high draft pick. You have team control for 2 more years. And he's proven to play, especially on a bad team. What is there not to like about this? As a Patriots fan, what is there not to like about this? And Gardner Minshew has swagger. He's got a mustache. He's got the goatee. He wears jorts. He has a mullet. What more do you want from this guy? He's a cool dude. The Patriots need Gardner Minshew. They should trade for him. Unless they have a plan lined up relatively soon to bring in someone else. Jimmy Garoppolo, Tyrod Taylor. They're not going to get Deshaun Watson. They're not going to get Russell Wilson, so you kind of cross them off the board. Gardner Minshew should be on that list. Now, if they're going to trade up and draft a quarterback, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, whoever, then okay, I can understand not wanting to trade for Gardner Minshew. But if the Patriots and Belichick do not draft a quarterback in the first round, or at least trade up to draft one, and they don't trade for Gardner Minshew, I'm going to be pissed off. I will be pissed off. Because I'm not going to go through another offseason where we dumpster dive for another Cam Newton. Now you could say, oh, the Patriots are going to wait and see what the draft lays out, and if they don't get their quarterback, they can trade for Gardner Minshew. Well, by that point, the price could be higher because the Patriots are more desperate, and the Jaguars could be like, nah, F you, right? Third round pick, second round pick, because I know you're desperate. Then Belichick's going to say, no, F that, and now we're going to have no quarterback. We're going to bring back Cam Newton, which some people want. Some people want to bring back Cam Newton, give him another chance. Me, personally, I'm not in that boat, but that's a conversation for another day. It really is. I love the Gardner Minshew idea. I'm huge on Minshew. I think he's got it. He just needs a decent team around him, and I think if the Patriots can do that, which they already have the framework for, can put you right back in the AFC East competition. It can. And then you get another couple extra pieces. You build through the draft, sign a few guys, spend some money, and now you're competing for a legitimate playoff spot. Yeah. Just let that sink in. Gardner Minshew could lead the New England Patriots to the playoffs, right? Whew. I'm getting chills just thinking about that. I love the dude. I think he's awesome. I'm not giving you my opinion about him with a biased perspective because this is an unbiased show, as you know. So, with all that being said, everything that we talked about, the Bruins, the Red Sox, the Patriots, I want to know your thoughts. Let me know. Tweet at me, DM me, whatever, at Murphs_BostonST, where the ST stands for Sports Talk. Yes, it does. Boston Sports Talk. I want to hear your thoughts about everything and everything we talked about. If you're watching on YouTube, chuck a comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, definitely throw this video a like. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you're new to the channel or haven't yet, definitely consider subscribing. If you're watching on audio-only platforms, thank you so much for downloading, listening, and enjoying. It is all greatly appreciated. I will catch you all in Wednesday's episode on Wednesday. Until then, have a wonderful, safe, enjoyable day today. But until then, see ya.